Hey guys, what's up? This is Casey. This is Coach Tom. This is the Shot Science Overtime, number 98. Have to check on the number there. So what we do every week is that we have a topic that we discuss for the first 10 or 15 minutes of the show. And, it's something that we think is going to help you guys develop your game, make you a better player. If you're watching right now, you're an early bird or you're watching the recording, and that's great because that shows that you really want to take your playing to the next level. But our topic for today is going to be stats player first or team first player. Which is better. And while we're doing that, you guys are going to send us your questions, anything basketball related, shooting, dribbling, passing, defense, how to talk to your coach, vertical jump, skill development, doesn't matter. Just send us those questions and we will get to those as soon as we finish our topic. And we'll try to get to everybody. And if we don't get to you, we'll try to get to you during the week. Whatever we can do to talk to you guys, we will try to do our best. So start sending us those questions, and we are going to jump right into the topic for today, which is, should you be a stats first player or a team first player? I think I said it right that time. So what do you think?
Well, it's interesting.
Pretty obvious, I think.
Well, yeah, it is. But, I was thinking about this earlier today, and one of the things that kind of stuck in my brain is that players, both boys and girls, men and women, they participate in sports sometimes for different reasons. Sometimes it is for just the ego satisfaction of participating on a team. Sometimes it has to do with just the peer involvement. Your buddies are all playing, and so it only makes sense that you would step in and play as well. Some people look at it to hopefully take them to a point where they're more well known. So there's a number of reasons that players participate in all sports, not just basketball, but all sports. And the idea of you being what kind of a player you are in probably any sport is going to be determined by your skill level. And some people that are going to participate are going to have really good skills, but they're also going to be driven from within themselves to be the outstanding scorer, let's say, on that particular team. It doesn't make any difference what kind it is. And so the idea is that, and I was thinking about this and brought to memory an old saying that I've heard probably, for a long time. I won't tell you how many years, but a long time. And that is the word team does not have an I in it. And now there's this little cartoon thing that comes out. They kind of show you that, yeah, there is an I in it, but there really isn't. And the idea is that
the funny thing about that is the I is in the a-hole.
Yeah, right.
So.
And so the upshot of it is that, players who play for self-gratification or they're playing for the stats, they're always going to be there. There's always going to be those other players that are going to be probably role players, and they're the ones that probably are going to put the team first. And that doesn't mean that every player doesn't want to score, because everybody does. The gratification in any sport, and particularly basketball, is being able to score. I mean, that's great gratification for you. One of my players one of my students played in 2 basketball games over the weekend, and he hit 40 points in those 2 games. That was 40 total. And he had struggled up until this year with his shot. And finally, we were able to kind of get it going for him. And and he felt so good about the fact that he had scored 40 points in these 2 basketball games. Because before that, he would maybe make 4. And so he's really into the self-gratification mode, but he is still not in the I mode. He's just being a team player first. And I think that's real important that everybody look at the game that way, but not all players do. There are different levels of selfishness and ego that are involved in determining where you're going to be. I never was a stats first player because my stat line was always really tiny, really, really small. And I never put that there, but I did excel on defense and rebounding and that sort of thing. And so that was what I brought to the game, and always felt like the team was the first thing. It was the most important thing. We had a couple of guys that we played with at different levels of basketball along the way that I played on that were more into the stats first. But I can't fault them too much for that. They helped us win a lot of basketball games.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that the real thing that you should be evaluating when you're a player is that I mean, without your teammates, you're not going to be winning any games.
Yep.
Michael Jordan against 5 other NBA level guys is not going to win.
Right.
It's just not possible. And so you have to have those other 4 guys or however many guys that you're playing with that are on your side, that are helping you. You're helping them. And I would think of it more as, what can you contribute to the team? And you might be the guy that's scoring 30 points. You might be the guy that's pulling down 12 rebounds. And you know what? That's great. But I think the reason that we kind of chose this topic is because there are guys out there who, they're showing more pride in the fact that they scored 30 points, or that they grab 12 rebounds or something like that, than they do for winning and working with their team. And the guys that kind of have the mentality that they hate to lose and they're going to do everything they can to contribute to the team to win, that's kind of the character that you want to instill in yourself, I think.
Well, it is, and it's a coach's dream to have that as well, because you take a look at a basketball team. They're somewhere in the number of probably 10 to 15 players, and you're hoping that they're all pulling in a real positive direction. And sometimes most all of them are. There's usually 1 or 2 people that are more interested in their stats, but that's just the way the teams are made up.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at a stats first player versus a team first player, I think of the team first player is the guy that's looking at the stats and seeing whether they won or lost. And the stats first player is looking at whether he did better than his average, or is going to be in the newspaper and stuff like that. And if that's the kind of teammate that you have in your team, that's kind of a bummer. I mean, you don't want to be the teammate of that guy. But it's also important to look at that stats are important, because it's a way to be able to gauge kind of performance and progression and things like that. But you should never really, you have to be careful about how you use stats too. I mean, sometimes you see these guys that are doing like deep stats and all that, and I don't think that that's as helpful as people really think it is. But if there's a guy in there that all he sees is his stat line and nobody else, I mean, that's not really the best approach.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's a reason why there's such an emphasis on team when it comes to sports like basketball and like football or baseball or whatever. You're not playing singles tennis. It's not just you out there. And if you're not involving your team and taking the opportunity to set up the best opportunity to score or the best opportunity to stop the other team, then you're not really working towards the success of the entire team, which really affects your success. Because unless you are just an insane talent that can take on 5 other guys really by yourself, then that stat line really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that it's fine to be excited for yourself if you score 30 points or whatever. Like, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But don't let that be like the thread through of what you're trying to achieve.
Right. Absolutely. It's kind of funny as I'm sitting here listening to what Casey's saying. I'm remembering back over, a few years and whatnot. And over those years, the guys who were the stat players over the team players on my teams didn't last very long. I can remember having 2 or 3 of them that were really capably very good. But then they began to, I think they were much better than they really were, and they started ignoring playing with their own teammates. And it became the game became about them and not about them and their team. And we weren't very successful. And that led to some criticism from the players, the other players, because they want to play and have some equality in that whole program as well. And a couple of these guys I can remember didn't take didn't take well to my speaking to them about that they need to share the ball more. They need to be more of a team player. And in both cases, the two young guys, we had a parting of the way fairly early. After about 5 or 6 games, it was very clear that they had their own motivation, and it wasn't it wasn't a team motivation. It was an I motivation. And so we parted ways. And, their basketball careers just kind of went south after that. Neither one of them really played in their final years in high school and never played afterwards again as a part of a team. They may have played pickup basketball and stuff like that, but they were too much concerned about themselves and their own production heroics, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, to be successful on a team sport, you have to buy into being on the team.
Yeah.
And so, if you're worried about individual stats before that, then you're going to be in trouble. And the thing about winning in basketball is that the best teams are the ones that are the most integrated and kind of play off of each other, and everybody's working together, knows that what the other person is doing. The chemistry is strong. That's why you see teams like the San Antonio Spurs, who maybe they don't have the most athletic, most talented, youngest or whatever team, but they are the best team because of the fact that they put the team first. The chemistry is there. Tim Duncan isn't there thinking, man, I got to get my 25 points a game, and Tony Parker's not thinking I need to get my 20 points a game or whatever. Those guys know their roles. They know what it takes to win, and that's their priority. And if any one of those guys just checked out of that and started worrying about, I gotta worry about my all-time career scoring list placement or something like that, then that would be kind of a problem, and they wouldn't be quite as successful or nearly as successful. So that's one of the reasons why we brought this up, is don't be that guy. You want to be the guy or girl that's putting the team first, and worry more about your contribution towards the team. And that could be a larger contribution than other teammates, but always worry about the team and emphasizing that and putting that up in front of you in terms of your motivation and stuff.
Right. Well, there's a couple of instances that kind of come to my mind clearly. A few days ago, we had a basketball game where we had a stolen ball, and the guy took off with the dribble, and there were 2 players ahead of him. He drove the entire length of the floor to take the shot for himself. If the other people were 15 feet plus in front of him, all he needed to do is pass it up and give it to them, but he wanted those points. And so we discussed that a little bit, and he won't be doing that again. But I watched a college game yesterday, and I don't remember who the teams were as I'm thinking back on it. And I saw the same situation there. And at the very first time out, the team that this one player had done the same thing, the coach was in his face, and you could see the finger, and he was telling him what he needed to do. And that was to share the basketball and give it to the person, instead of it being about me, being about I, whatever. And so sometimes those the me things pops up an awful lot in basketball games, and sometimes I don't think it's totally intended, but when it is, coaches want to address it right away so that it's dealt with.
Yeah. Okay. So are we done on that topic? Do you think there's any more that we want to milk out of it?
No.
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of the takeaway for that, you guys, is worry about contributing towards the team, not so much your personal contribution exclusively. Team is huge in basketball.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to transition into the Q&A portion of our show. And so if you want your question answered, anything basketball related, all you have to do is send us a question either on Twitter, where we are at Shot Science. You can send it to us on Facebook, Google+, in the chat of this YouTube stream, or in the Q&A app here on Google+ that I have not turned on yet. There we go. And you can, we'll try to get to as many questions as we possibly can. If you could, it would be awesome if you could go out and tell your friends and family to join and watch the show, because that only helps us do cooler things for you guys, have better guests on. In the past, we've had NBA player Danny Green from the San Antonio Spurs on. We've had some a good number of college coaches. We've had some coaches that help get kids into college programs. So if you want more people like that, go out there and share our show and let people know that we're on. The more people, the merrier. And so what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into questions, send them over, and we'll keep getting to as many as we possibly can. Okay. So let's do this one all about .basketball on Google Plus here. And they say, during the summer, I was considered one of the best shooters in the country. I also played football for my school at the time, but now that football is over, I've lost my shot. How can I get it back?
Okay, well, he says county instead of country there.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things, you haven't lost the shot. It's still there. It's just that you have to go back and refine it a little bit. And most everybody, when you step away and you don't spend time on a regular basis, meaning daily, weekly, or whatever, working on your stroke, it kind of goes south on you. But it's still there. And so what we would encourage you to do is that get yourself into a practice situation where it's just you and maybe somebody to shag the ball, and use our form shooting drill. And with that form shooting drill, begin to take and pull that shot together for you again, because it's still there. It didn't really go away. And most people that have those kind of comments don't understand the fact that you have that muscle memory there. We just have to bring it back out again and win it. And it comes out pretty quickly once you get started. And so that would be our recommendation, that you use that form shooting drill and you take and try to get, I would say, makes. We talk in terms of makes or made shots. I would try and make at least 180 of those a day if you can, until the shot comes around, and it won't take long.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too, is that for you to have a consistent shot, one that goes down regularly and it is working for you, you have to work on it consistently too. So if you go and you play football for a couple months or whatever, you cannot expect to step back in and it'll be right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that just doesn't happen. So what you need to do is make sure that you have a consistent kind of dialing in, polishing practice time that you put into that. And if you do that, your shot will be there, and you will keep progressing instead of regressing.
Well, there's another thing that I should mention here that I think is pretty common. Some coaches spend quite a bit of time in their practice sessions with shooting, and others that spend not very much time, because they're spending time on defense, inbound plays, press offense, press defense. And there's so many things to deal with that oftentimes your shooting kind of goes down and I don't think it's intentional. It's just that we got to get all that stuff in. And so we don't really shoot the ball as very much at practice. For me, and I think probably most coaches, you need to shoot the basketball. I was talking to one young guy who was a sophomore in high school, and I said, well, now on the team that you're playing on, how often do you shoot the basketball? Well, we shoot free throws every day. I'm not talking about free throws. They should be shot regularly, but you should be shooting shots from the field. And from the field, we're talking about those shots anywhere from 10 feet out to 21 feet, something like that, and to do that on a regular basis. And the other thing that you'll hear from us every time that we talk about shooting is that shooting needs to be at game speed as much as possible. Form shooting is something that I would do on the outside, away from practice, just myself and somebody to rebound the basketball for me. That helps you stay sharp. But when you get into those practices, and your own practice as well, try to set it up so that you are shooting the ball at game speed. Hard drive, pull up and shoot, catch and deliver the ball on the three from the three line very quickly. Okay, and game speed shooting is really going to make the difference between you being able to score and being very iffy.
Yeah, but the other thing too to remember is that individual skills and individual skill development is not on your coach.
Nope,
that is on you.
Time.
So if your coach doesn't spend any time on shooting, it doesn't spend any time on dribbling or ball handling or whatever, then that puts that on you.
Yeah.
You can't get bummed out because your coach doesn't work on skill development and just works on kind of team plays and situational stuff. That's on you to work on your individual stuff.
Yeah. And you'll find you'll be a lot more successful when you take that approach too. When you have days off, like over the weekend, I would recommend highly that you take and spend maybe an hour each one of those days just working on your shooting mechanics and game speed shooting.
Right. I mean, you should think of basketball practice is about the team.
Yep.
Individual skill development is about you. So you
Right.
should be doing both as often as possible. And the individual stuff is in your control. So you should be doing that every day if you can. Okay. Rebound King says, how do I become a smarter player, like develop my basketball IQ?
Well,
basketball IQ comes down to experience.
Yeah, it really does. And the thing that will happen as you play more and you come into hundreds of different situations, you begin to develop an understanding of what needs to happen in those situations. And that is talking about your basketball IQ. And it's not something you can necessarily learn from a textbook or just word of mouth from the coach, even though they probably remind you of a lot of things during the course of practice and games, whatnot. But to become a smarter player or have a greater IQ for the game, you need to experience the game. And usually that comes through game experience. You probably get quite a bit of it also in practice as well. But that's how you acquire that IQ, is just by playing and seeing, understanding, addressing, and dealing with all of these different situations that occur in the game of basketball.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people put too much emphasis on just the straight up basketball IQ. I think it's more important to look at basketball aptitude, which is like the IQ applied.
Exactly.
So that's more like what to do in that situation and how to do it, not necessarily all this knowledge about basketball. And if you have a good game aptitude or basketball aptitude, you will be much more successful. So that really comes out of game experience and situational experience and stuff like that. So worry more about your aptitude than just your basketball IQ.
Yeah, just a little.
You're not going on Jeopardy for basketball. I mean, it's like you really want to know how, not just about it, but how to do it. And
how to deal with it. Yeah. And that's what it used to be when I was a kid. We were all given aptitude tests. And in those aptitude tests, what was the element is that here's a problem and you have to understand what the problem is. And then you have to take and come up with a solution to that problem. And that's really what Casey's getting at there, is the fact that you have to have this knowledge that you can apply to what's happening in the game. Yeah. And that is aptitude.
And then we have a question here from Linguini33 who says, how do I improve my mental game? Same deal.
Yeah.
It's mostly about getting experience, but also try to remove your just try to relax. I think it's one of the biggest things you can do when it comes to playing basketball. So many guys and girls go out there and they get so stressed out because either they don't know what to do or they don't feel like their skills are there. But all you can do is play at your level and what you're capable of. So just relax and do that. And that will have the game come to you a lot quicker. You'll start to understand things. And instead of being stressed out and just blocking everything out, all of a sudden you'll start to see situations. You'll start to see how things are kind of laid out and how they'll unfold and how you can handle them. If you're just sitting there and you're just freaking out and sweating, I mean, that's when you're mentally shutting down. So just don't do that. Relax. Okay, Big Shakta says, anything special planned for number 100? We're thinking about it. If you guys have ideas, let us know. If there's something special that you want us to do, just leave them in the comments here and we'll try to do what we can do. But yeah, hundreds, that's a lot of shows. That's 100 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. This one is from Chandler Marriott, who says, how do I become more mentally and physically aggressive on the court?
Well, I think to develop that kind of takes what we've been talking about is the aptitude, understanding the game, because once you kind of understand not only what the game is about, but what you can, what you can get away with, I guess is a good way to put it. Then that will take and enhance your game as well. As far as what was the other term that he used there?
Physically aggressive. And
physically aggressive. One of the things we have a local team that they're essentially a football-oriented school, and when they play basketball, it's a scrum. And so there's a lot of physicality that goes along with that when you play them. And so you kind of have to get yourself up and to do that. Schools that tend to have a lot of their student body, the boys and whatnot anyway, that are involved in physical sports like wrestling and football, they tend to be a little bit more aggressive. Now, typically here in California, wrestling occurs at the same time as basketball. So you're not having that crossover necessarily.
One of the things that I think is super important, is that you need to kind of flip the switch. A lot of people, they think that there's some special thing they need to do, or they're waiting for it to happen. But, if you mentally prepare yourself and tell yourself that basketball is a contact sport, contact is going to happen, you're going to encourage it, then you're going to be in the right space.
Yeah.
If you're one of those guys that is just like, oh no, don't bump me, don't hit me. I mean, that's the worst thing you can do,
right? Because
those are the guys that go up on fast breaks or drives to the basket, and then they just kind of do a little fadeaway flop thing, and that's not effective. But if you go in there, you're going to bump bodies. You know how to get a guy off balance and jump into him and get a good shot off and a foul. That's going to only make you a better player. So you need to flip the switch. A lot of guys just are waiting for it, but you gotta just do it yourself. Mentally, just do it.
Yes.
There's no secret. Okay, this one is a little long, but we're going to jump into it. It's from John Perez, who says, how can I remember what my role is and what play is running on the court? Oftentimes, as an example, we will play a full court press defense, and I will be up top on a 1-2-1-1 press. But oftentimes I run back and forget I'm supposed to be up there. And sometimes there will be fast break, and I see an opposing player catch the ball on the perimeter without my teammate playing our usual man defense. So I close out on him to prevent him from shooting. But then he dishes it out to the other person behind me who is supposed to be my man, but I didn't see, and he scores, and my teammate gives me crap for it.
Okay, that is really a long one. Okay, let's start off here with the first part of it there, where you're playing in the 1-2-2-1 press. If you're playing that press and it's something that you do on a regular basis, you don't forget that. And you can't forget that because there's one person then that is out of the play, so to speak. And so that's where they're going to attack you and expose that. The other thing is here you're talking about some people on the sometimes.
Well, hold on. When you're dealing with what your role is and all that stuff, you have to be in the game. You have to know what's going on. You can't just be playing willy-nilly.
Yeah.
And usually when you are playing in these sets like that, your coach is going to be telling you when to do that, whether that's hand signals or that's at the free throw line, people are setting that up. You just need to know that that's what the scenario is when you're playing. But I mean, there's no really other way around it. You have to just know what's going on.
Well, and that brings up this point too. You say here, and I forget I'm supposed to be up there. Well, you can't forget. I mean, that's just part of being a member of your team. You can't do that. And probably the coach is going to remind you of that, probably pretty aggressively. He's going to remind you of it. Okay, the other thing there where you're seeing an opposing player cast the ball and he's going to the basket and you decide that you're going to step out and challenge him, I would say that's the right thing for you to do. Now, if they throw the ball over the top of you to your man and that person is undefended, that's not your fault. What happens in basketball defensively is that the basketball defense is always flexing and changing shape, and people have to pick up for one another. One of the things that we talk about all the time is that we want to stop the penetration of the ball coming down, even though it's not your man possibly. And so you want to go out and get that pressure on the ball right away. And other players that you're playing with have to be smart enough that they see what you're doing, and you can verbally say, I got him. Okay. And that tells the other person then that they need to pick somebody else up. And we often refer to that movement of picking them up as rotation. other players rotate in behind you to take care of that open player. That's not your responsibility. If you make a commitment to go up and stop the guy that's undefended, then that person isn't your player anymore. It's a responsibility of one of your teammates to pick up for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is also situational.
Hang on a second. Then your teammates give you crap. Hey, your teammates should be coached up well enough that they understand that it's not your problem. You made a commitment to come up and stop that ball. Now it's up to them to make sure that they rotate and pick up the open player.
Yeah, I mean, so shifting and kind of switching and all that stuff are very important when it comes to defense in basketball.
Right.
And one of the things that you always want to keep in mind is you need to stop the ball first.
Yeah.
Because that's where the threat is immediately. If you're worried about just sometimes you see it, especially at lower levels of basketball or James Harden, you'll see a guy that he's just concerned about his one guy or area or whatever, and then the opposing team, the guy just drives right by him and scores a layup where he could have either stepped off or hedged or done a little fake towards the guy and got the guy to dish the ball out. But the guy just goes right by and scores. And it's like, well, what was the point of that? You could have just done something to maybe complicate the thing for the guy, but you don't do that. And so you need to keep in mind that just because you're guarding a guy or you're marking a guy doesn't mean that you are stuck there. You have to adjust to what the situation is. Right. And maybe the situation is too that you have to leave your guy to go check the guy that's on the perimeter. Maybe it's a situation where your teammate nobody's back to guard your guy. So what you need to do is figure out, do I need to pretend like I'm going to go show this guy that I'm committing to him and then fall back on my guy? Make them think, make them have to make a decision that they weren't intending to make. But if your teammates are giving you crap because you're trying to shut the ball down, I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it really is. There's another thing in defense that kind of I find annoying, and mostly it's because people don't know, is that your player is coming slower down the floor. They're trailing the ball actually, and you're up there defending them. Well, one of the things that is really important in team defense is that as a defender, you always want to be a little deeper than the ball so that you can help out if somebody does get loose. It doesn't do you any good or your team any good if you and the guy you're guarding are at midcourt and the ball is down at the free throw line. You've got to take and get lower than the basketball so that you get a group defense as opposed to individual defense.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And help defense is really, you need to be on top of it. And that's one thing that a coach should be working on in practice is helping you guys figure that out. Yeah. And if that's something you need help with, bring that up with your coach. You can say, in this situation, what do we do? Or what do we need to be prepared to do? And they should be able to help you with that.
Right. Very good.
Okay. Energy5 says, hey, Shot Science, I was here last week and I appreciated your response, but I'm still facing some challenges. I'm getting little to no minutes in our games. I'm trying really hard in practice, but it isn't translating into minutes in our games. Am I doing something wrong? Second, like last week, those guys who are on varsity and JV are still acting like jerks and starting to kill everyone's confidence. Any advice? Thanks. I love what you guys do. Keep it up. Cool. Well, let's do the first one first.
Yeah, let's do it.
He says, I'm getting little to no minutes in games. I'm really trying hard in practice, but isn't translating into minutes in our games. Am I doing something wrong? No. The other thing that you need to keep in mind is that it's not an instantaneous thing necessarily. You can only do what you're capable of, and your coach will pick up on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And, probably the thing that's real important for you, it sounds like you're really frustrated about it. And I can understand that. It would be probably really a good idea to have a private meeting with your coach, maybe after practice or before practice, where you can sit down and you can kind of tell him that you want to get more time, and what does he think you need to do that? And
I think that when you come into it, you want to say something like, what are some things that I can do to get more time out on the floor?
Yeah. You don't want to threaten the coach in any way, because then they get really defensive and you may not like what comes out of it. But if you go in kind of soft pedaling, like Casey's saying here, then probably what's going to happen is they will tell you, okay, you're just really slow on defense, and you can't keep up, or you don't shoot the ball very well, and we really need to have a shooter in there. He will tell you what it is that you are lacking or that you need. And so, and otherwise you go on just feeling in the dark about what's going on here. And we can't tell you because we're not involved or around that situation. So we really couldn't tell you anything.
Yeah, I mean, do all the things that we've told you before. Get out there, do all the little things, put effort, initiative, be a leader, all that stuff. Make sure you're sitting up near the coach if you're sitting on the bench and not sitting at the end of the bench. Be right there. Be the first option when he looks down the bench. And other than going and talking to the coach about what you can do to help the team more, emphasize that. That's really all you can do. But also remember that it might take a little bit of time too. Hopefully it's you're still not too deep into the season, but it takes a lot of work, and especially if you're trying to kind of emerge into the team dynamic that's already set up or chemistry that's already set up, it might take a little while.
Well, I can remember a situation when I was a young guy and I was playing football. And the situation was kind of like this. I wasn't getting a chance to play at all. I was standing on the sidelines, and I didn't think I was a terrible player. And I told this friend of mine that I thought probably I was going to just hang it up because, I wasn't playing and it wasn't much fun. And so don't do that. Well, unbeknownst to me, he went to the coach and talked to the coach. So that afternoon in practice, they put me into on defense. And it was just the quirkiest thing ever happened. I was playing between the center and the guard, and when the ball was snapped, I was so amped up by getting a chance to kind of get in there and go. I got into the backfield and I hit the fullback, and over backwards he went. I started the next day as a defensive lineman. Okay, and so I don't know that this is necessarily the case, but sometimes coaches don't realize what you maybe can bring to the game. And I felt after that particular incident that they didn't know what I could do. And then they saw it right there, and they said, okay, then we'll find a place for that guy to play because he hits people. Okay, and I think that a lot of times that's kind of what you need to do, is just be able to find some way to show them what you've got that they maybe need or can take advantage of.
Yeah, and stop feeling sorry for yourself too.
Yeah. And as far as listening to those JVs and varsity guys that you're talking about acting like jerks, hey, they're going to be jerks no matter what. So I would just take and avoid anything that they have to say.
They're not you, so forget about it.
Yeah, you just don't pay any attention.
You'll bump into those guys on other teams and in life. And you just gotta deal with it, and if anything, laugh it off, because they are the guys being kind of douchey.
Yeah, and 15 years from now they'll be the same guy, and so don't worry about it.
Yeah. Okay, this one is from Mickey or Mikey Tadek, who says, "Coach, I'm a point guard who likes being a shooting guard or small forward, but I'm a team player. I am such a team player that I give up my own field goal attempts. I just pass and hope the offense sets up. Some guys on my team just shoot or drive after one pass." Lots of exclamation points. Mm-hmm. We lose close games. Most of the time I have less than 5 field goal attempts. Should I attempt more? Note, I'm a really good 3-point shooter and okay with free throws. Thank you.
Well, this is a pretty common situation.
Okay, number one, forget about the position stuff.
Yeah. Don't worry about that.
Be a basketball player.
Yeah, and the thing that's real important here is you say you're a team player, and that's really super, and that you're willing to give the ball up to other people for them to score. I think that's great, but I think that sometimes you need to take and assert yourself, and you go ahead and score if you think you got a better chance to do that. You lose close games. Well, one of the things that occurs to me here is that you're playing on a team that has a coach or several coaches, and they're the ones who need to pull the reins in on these other guys that are shooting all the field goal attempts if they're not being successful. And if you're a 3-point shooter, then demonstrate that you can do that in practice and in games, and hopefully they'll tell you. Well, here's what they will tell you. Feel free to shoot. If you're open, feel free to shoot. Okay. And for me, That's exactly the conversation I would have. If I've got somebody who is capable of shooting and making those baskets and they're not, then we're going to have a discussion. And I'm going to encourage them to go ahead and shoot the basketball. You're open. It's a good look and nobody else has got a better one. Shoot it.
Yeah, I mean that's the key is when you're playing basketball, you should go to the greatest opportunity or best opportunity, and if that's you, then take it. If these other guys are not recognizing that there's a different game plan or whatever, that is on the coach. And the less time you spend worrying about the coach's job, the better you're going to be doing your job. So keep that in mind. Okay, this one is from John O2 in the Google Plus Q&A app, who says, I'm a freshman and I am about 5'10", 5'11", and I play center in the dribble drive Fresno offense. My question is, I'm having difficult time finding my shot pocket. I shoot with the ball above my right shoulder and I cock back and shoot. Should I change it?
Yes. You know, we're very familiar with the dribble drive offense because we've been doing that for 10, 12 years, something like that. And if you're playing that low post position, which we call that the number 4 spot, you're going to be contested probably by bigger players, and you should have the ball extended above your head. And we think it's not really a good idea to shoot the ball off your shoulder anytime. That you want the ball up, and it should be in front of the shooting eye right here. And in fact, one of the things that I really like to describe that is Alan Stein refers to that position as having your thumb over your eyebrow, and that's where you want the basketball when you shoot it. And if you're around the basket, you want to have the ball extended and a little higher position. When you shoot it down from a little lower, it's going to be much easier for them to block it.
Yeah,
and you don't want to cock it back here either. Is that what you're going to say, Casey?
Yeah, I was going to say that if you have it back over here, you know, number one, that's going to make your shot have extra motion and variables that it doesn't need. And it's going to make it kind of a segmented shot because you got to come back and set it and then do all that stuff. Other thing is that you're going to have probably a flat follow through, which is going to have a flat arc on the ball. Not going to be very successful when it comes to accuracy. So if you get the ball up, get the yoke here where you have the, you know, you have the ball kind of set like this. You can see the Y shape right here, and you have it above your shooting eye and extend up. And it's worth working on it. You got to put the time in. You do the form shooting drill, and you know it's going to have a lot better return for you than just what you're doing.
Yeah.
Also, check out our shooting videos, and we demonstrate that with illustrations and demos and all that stuff. So check out our shooting playlist. And good luck. Let's know how it goes. Okay, this one is from Free Swaggle in the comments, who says, I just made my school basketball team and was super excited for the upcoming season. I was just wondering if there's anything I can work on to improve my game physically. Physically meaning what? Does that mean in terms of your physicality? Does that mean in terms of your skill level? I mean, the only thing you can do is put in the practice and work and effort into that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, there's the skill development stuff, which is shooting, dribbling, footwork, all that.
Yep.
Then there's the conditioning aspect of it.
Right.
And you know, you can throw your strength and conditioning stuff into that. You know, if you want more information on how to develop your skill development stuff, check out our videos. We have a bunch of drills and suggestions and things like that. If you're worried about the strength and conditioning stuff, we have some stuff on that. Vertical jump videos are really good to check out, but also check out Alan Stein and Stronger Team, because that's kind of his forte, is doing all of that strength and conditioning stuff. And so you need to put the work in is really the thing. And there's no way around it. There's no pills, there's no powders. It's all effort.
Well, the other thing comes into play here too is that you're asking about improving your game physically. Your coach is going to have you work on conditioning, which will improve your physicality, and so they usually will direct that. But it's fine for you to do it on your own as well.
Right. But just remember, you have to put the effort in.
Okay.
Zach Cav, who is at Marvin Frost 102 on Twitter, says, I get very, very open, but the point guard never passes to me. Help.
How come? You know, we don't know why he doesn't want to pass it to you. It's because you never pass it beyond your shelf. You take all the shots. Are you going to be an instant turnover? Why does he not throw it to you?
Well, I think the thing is too, is that, are you putting in the effort to get open? Are you doing things like,
that's part of it,
like creating leads and doing V cuts, L cuts, backdoor cuts.
Yeah.
And if you're getting open, or flashing the post, flashing period, whatever it is, are you getting open enough to where it's obvious to everybody? Because if the coach sees that and he lets that guy keep doing his number, that's on the coach.
Yeah.
And he needs to address that with that guy. But are you really open, or do you just think you're open? You know, the thing is that if you're doing all the work and not getting the ball, then something else is going on. That's the coach. If it's some other situation, then that's tough for us to say. But the other thing is that if you don't have the ball and you're not getting it, that's kind of and you're doing all the work, that's kind of all you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you go talk to the coach and say, hey, coach, you know, I feel like I'm doing all the work to get open. And, you know, I just don't think that the ball is getting distributed as it should. You know, maybe that's something you can keep an eye on, or let me know what else I can do. Whatever it is, don't come in entitled and say, coach, I'm open all the time and he's never giving me the ball and blah, blah. You know, if you do that kind of stuff, then you kind of be pegged as the jerk.
You know, one thing that happens, particularly with younger players, is they get into mindsets. Like, one of the things that we really encourage both offense, zone and man offense, is to get a ball and swing it and reverse it all the way from baseline to baseline if we can, before we take an early shot. And the reason for that is that we like to make the defense have to flex and change positions several times. What happens is, I think some players, particularly those maybe that are playing out in front and responsible for giving the ball to other players, maybe be really weak in getting the ball, let's say, to the left side, and they're afraid to pass it that way. Sometimes they get into the mindset, and we have to really take and just kind of sit on them, because the ball, if I'm a point guard, the ball comes back around and I take a look the other way and then I throw it back the same way. I don't want that ball as a coach to go back the other way. I want it to swing all the way around the court and try to get that defense to have to flex a number of times. And that's when that defense is going to open up for some scores. So maybe that'll help you a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. This one is from Julie Master 98, who says, how do I get better quality shots? Create space.
Well, that, and work hard to get open. You know, one of the things that Casey was talking about a few moments ago, and we talk about every week, it seems, and that is, you need to learn how to create openings for yourself by using such things as L cut, V cut, back cut, and
flashing the post,
flash the post. Yeah, and all of those things help you get open to receive the ball for a possible shot. And, you know, if you don't do that, if you're a stand-around offensive player, you're probably not going to get in the ball very much. And not only that, you're not going to get shots very often either. But catching the ball, and like Casey said, you need to learn how to create space. And you see our videos where we talk about creating space. One of the things that we teach also in our classes is that in order to create space, we first of all have to close space. In other words, if we got a defender on us there, we have to close our space on that person, either with a drive or whatnot, and then we can create more of an area for us maybe to get a shot off of.
Yeah, and I would suggest to check out our videos on moving without the ball, and what is a quality shot, I think is, or what is a good shot.
What is a good shot, yeah.
Check out those videos, because a lot of it comes down to creating the scenario before you actually even catch the ball.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that would be it. Space is a huge thing.
Yeah.
This one is from Jerry Zhang, who says, how can I be a lockdown defender without fouling so much? Stop reaching.
Yeah, don't reach. That's probably the biggest defensive problem that people have, is they're reaching for the ball all the time. And one of the things that I kind of like to teach our guys is this, is that when you are on that defender, it's just like there's a glass wall between you and him, and your hands cannot pass through that glass wall. They're always on the outside. You can harass passes and whatnot, but don't reach in. And people are obsessed with the idea that they want to steal the ball. Well, stealing the ball more often than not ends up with you getting a slap on the hand or the arm, where you're going to have a foul on you.
Well, reaching for it.
Yeah, or you're reaching for it. And so actually turnovers, actually steals and whatnot, actually are usually more resultant from you stepping in front of somebody and taking the pass instead of letting them have it. So don't use your hands. And the thing that's really important is don't use your hand to reach in, but use it to mirror the basketball. And the other thing is learn how to move your feet. Lockdown defenders have really good footwork, and they're quick with that footwork.
Yeah, I mean, the key there, I think, really is to make sure that you are not reaching in. And if you have the mentality that you're going to steal the ball from that guy, if you watch any game on TV or any high school game or whatever, and you will see that most of the steals do not come from knocking the ball out of the guy's hands and picking them.
Yeah.
They come from stepping in and picking off a pass or whatever.
Yeah.
And
or deflecting a ball. Somebody goes to throw it and you get a little hand on it and deflect it, and that changes where the ball's going to go, and maybe you or one of your teammates pick it up.
Yeah, I mean, you see these guys that are just reaching in like crazy, and it's like they're essentially doing something that's not really going to give the payoff that they think it's going to give. Yeah. So worry more about reaching in. I'm not reaching in, but stepping in front of the pass. Okay, this one is from Thomas Manzoni, who is at Tom Jorgenman, who says, in a one-on-one situation, how can I attack my defender with a correct angle? Because usually I run into my defender's body. Thanks.
Well, one of the things that you'll find if you go to our videos and we talk about how to attack people, we talk about attacking them hip to hip. And the reason that we talk about that is we, number one, do not want to leave them much time to react to us. If we take and flare wide, then they're able to have more time to get to us, and they're going to take and tend to push us toward the boundary or the sideline. And so by coming off them tight, you put them into a situation where they maybe will make contact with you, which can be a foul, or they have to open their body up. And so the right angle is to just go hip to hip with them.
Yeah, it's stepping over that outside foot, hip to hip, shoulder to shoulder, extend out. You're not going to plow over the top from them. You're not going to go out and around. It's really a north-south, progression or proceeding.
Right. And we have a video on the hip to hip attack as well.
Yeah, hip to hip, long one-on-one. Check out those videos. Okay, so we're in lightning round action now, and so we got to nail as many of these as quickly as we can. Short answers, hopefully short questions. And we're going to go. Okay, so this one is from Mr. Unbeaten Spade, who says, I played the small forward in high school, but I'm about the size of a power forward. I like shooting threes. That's my thing. I'm shooting around 45%. The thing is, my coach wants me to play low post. We lack in that area. I'm not really comfortable doing that. I like playing defense down low, but offense is another thing. What should I do?
You do what the coach tells you to do.
Yep.
It may not be very much fun, but usually you will have a chance to step away and exhibit your shooting skill from there. When you're playing on a basketball team and the coach is involved, he's the guy who is making the choices for you. You don't really have too many of those choices.
Yeah, and just play within like the framework of the team, and you'll find that there'll be opportunities that arise, and you'll be good to go. Okay, so let's see. This one is from Julie Master 98, who says, how can I drive better and finish at the rim? You got to focus on the finish. That's like the major thing. Create space and focus on the finish. So check out our videos on the dribble attacks,
right,
and then check out the finishes at the rim video.
Right.
Okay, this one is also from Julie Master, who says, which muscle should I work to improve my shooting range? You should work on your shooting muscle.
Well, you work on your legs. Most people don't think that the legs are that important, and they tend to shoot more of the upper body.
But I think they're more concerned, like, should I go to the gym and work out?
No.
Spend your time working on shooting and use the form shooting drill. Progressively master certain areas, and then take a step back, master that area, take a step back, start in real close, work yourself back to 20 feet.
And learn to use your legs.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, your mechanics won't break down if you step from 5 feet to 22 feet. But if you work your way back, you're working on building up those muscles as you go, doing the thing that you want to be able to do. Okay, this one is from Mr. Newbie 99. He says, I'm a small forward and I've started to learn and develop a post game. They're in high school. Do you have any tips for shooting post fadeaways? It's one of the shots I continue to struggle with and was wondering if you could help. Sure, well, we'd love to help you with this. Don't shoot them.
Yeah. Fade shot are not high percentage shots, especially in the post.
If you're playing basketball, you need to focus on high percentage shots.
Yeah.
Fadeaways are inherently going to be lower percentage because you're adding in all these variables. You're directionally falling away. You have to change your mechanics and all these things that are not going to be as beneficial as learning to create space, develop a couple of actual post moves that will give you a good shot, and worry more about that than having these fadeaways. Fadeaways are not high percentage shots.
Well, and we have a number of post moves in there that you don't really have to fade, and they're really effective.
Yeah. Okay, this one is from, and we don't like to hate on fadeaways and stuff that people like to do, but the fact of the matter is, if you want to be a really great player, shoot the shots that are higher percentage that are going to get you the bigger payoff. That's really the key. We're not just hating on fadeaways. They really just are not good shots. Okay, this one is from Ibrahim Mubarez, who says, "What do I do if I'm a soccer player? Play more basketball." I don't know. Do you want to be a basketball player?
Play more basketball.
Yeah. Okay, this one is from David Aparicio, who says, I'm an all-around player on my varsity squad. I play the 1 through 3 and sometimes the 4. I'm 5'11", can shoot decently and finish very well. I lead my team in assists, but coach doesn't put me at 1 guard. I understand I have to do what I can to contribute the most, but I feel most comfortable and give better games at point guard. What do I do? Play what the coach says.
Exactly. The coach is going to direct the team, and he's put you in a position where he thinks you can be most effective for your team. And, maybe occasionally he will slide you into that one spot, but just be a basketball player and contribute as much as you can where he wants you to be.
Okay, this one
and then when you go out and you're not being coached by anybody, then play the position you really want to play.
Right. Okay. This one is from Jesus Castro, who says, how do you get back on track after an ankle injury? You just got to put in the time.
Yeah.
Go check out Alan Stein's videos.
Exactly.
Okay. This one is from Jamie Reese, who says, how can I begin to make more shots whilst I'm under pressure? You want to try to make more shots while you're not under pressure. So learn to create space.
Yeah.
Too many people focus on trying to create or trying to make shots while there's a guy in their face or whatever.
Yeah. And that's not the reality in the game of basketball. What you want to do is learn to get yourself in a situation where you can create a little space to get that shot off, or there is no shot. And that's the reality of it, is that if you're being contested, that's not a good shot.
Right. Okay, so these are our last questions from our guy, Willie Will, who is at KingWill14 on Twitter. He says, as a young assistant coach, I'm unsure what to do when it comes to helping our offense. In our last game, we didn't really run plays. One player did most of the scoring in isolation, but we still won. So, I mean, what is the real question? I mean, are you trying to develop more of an offensive attack or change your team dynamic? I'm not really sure what the actual question is. But as an assistant coach, you should be able to talk to your head coach, right?
Well, yeah, you should. And, as in my role as assistant coach over the years, I spent a lot of my time just kind of working on the little nitty gritty parts of, like setting this screen here and why and how you do it. And when you make a cut to the basket, you make this step first and you go there. And I think as an assistant coach, those are the kind of things that you want to focus on. And then the head coach should be focusing on the larger issues of the offense and who's going to shoot it and that sort of thing.
Yeah. But I mean, you should be having dialogue with your head coach and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you want me to do?
Yeah. If you have another question or follow up, just send us that on Twitter or something. Okay. So that's going to do it for us today, you guys. Let us know if you want us to do anything for overtime number 100. That's coming up in like a week and a half, 2 weeks. Man, my brain is not working today. But let us know if there's something special you want us to try to work towards, and we'll try to make it happen. If you guys could, make sure you go out and share the fact that we do these live shows with other people, because it helps us do cool things like get cool guests on for you guys. If we didn't get to your question today, it's not because we didn't like you. It's because we just ran out of time. We will do our best to get to you during the week if you send us those questions again. The best place to reach us is on Twitter. We are at Shot Science.
If you find an appropriate kind of corollary video that we have done already and you send us a question on there, we will try to get to you there. We are on Facebook, Google+, subscribe to us on YouTube. We're on Twitter. We're all over the place. Instagram. Make sure you follow us on those places, and we will be back next week at 1 p.m. on Sunday. And yeah.
Thanks for joining us again. It was always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks.